Austin Sutor, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Not only are you a designer, a former athlete, a creative, you're also someone I matched with on Bumble. I don't know if you know that, but
it's a good start.
That's exactly how I kind of found out about you.
Yeah.
Is I was like going through Bumble, and anyone that I think is cute, I just instantly go follow them on Instagram. Like, I don't mess with like the dating app stuff.
That's funny.
So I went and followed you on Instagram, and I was like, whoa, there's a whole lot more to this guy than just some guy on Bumble. So I was like, I have to get him on the podcast. You've been on quite a few podcasts.
Yeah.
So, and I know we talked about, you know, your time kind of being a writer. And that's kind of where you first got started, your first creative outlet. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Just how it started?
Yeah, just kind of because, you know, I'm looking at it from like a perspective of Instagram because that's kind of where I found you and followed you.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have...
How long ago was that?
It's a good question. Now, you know, I'm not a stalker, okay?
Yeah.
I think it was probably like a few months ago.
Okay, gotcha.
And I don't even know how we decided to do an episode together.
I don't know.
Did I reach out to you or did you reach out to me?
I think probably you reached out to me. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I started writing a lot probably a few years ago when I was going through therapy, trying to work through some different things. And like, I just found that as a tool that really helped me express myself and get things out, you know, and put them down on paper and the notes section on my phone and be able to go back and reference them or just, you know, add to it. And I just enjoyed that for a while. It helped me clear my head, and I did other things as well on top of that. But that was a really powerful tool for me as I was working through some things during that time of my life. And then I just like kind of realized when I started to share some of it that I had like a gift with words in some sense. So I wanted to find a way to share it with more people. So I started writing and posting on Instagram like every day or so under an account for about a year, under an alias we can talk about. But yeah, from that, like I just noticed that people would, you know, reach out and see it obviously like reshared on stories and whatnot. But I was never trying to like say anything preachy, just things that make people think differently, like give them a different perspective or give words or meaning to something that they may feel but don't know how to explain. So that was kind of the feedback that I would get a lot, you know, things like that, or this really helped me through my day. So I just kept going with it. And it's super like rewarding for me to see that. I think I was always like writing kind of to like a younger version of myself or to myself with what I would share. But from that, you know, during that time, my life definitely got a lot better. I got a lot healthier in a lot of ways, and, you know, I just kept going with it and now have a brand from that. So it's interesting where things can start and then like what they lead to.
Yeah. And you were writing under an alias, right? So people didn't know that it was you. And I think I heard at one point, or we talked about, maybe you were in college and some people kind of found out that you were writing and you stopped for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why'd you do that? Like, what held you back when these people like figured out, hey, that's Austin?
Yeah. Yeah, that was right after college. So started a blog, and I was going to write about my time teaching English in Thailand and like traveling around and, you know, kind of discovering myself. And that was sort of the intention of it. But the first thing I posted, I just saw like a video Snapchat of some people mocking it and reading it out loud at a pregame, people that I was still friends with. But that was tough for me just to swallow in that moment. And I really wanted to address it at that time, but I didn't. And I just kind of like sat on it, but it stopped me from creating for like a while, just from the fear of judgment and the fear of like what others think or what they would say about it. But then as I matured, I think my perspective changed, and I just realized how much I had grown in that time. So I had to give them the same chance. And, I think we come from places where people know more often like a former version of ourselves. Like people change 100 times, 1,000 times throughout their life, right? Like there's a lot of people that know you from high school and college that don't know the current version of you. So when they see you doing something, they're going to hold you accountable to that former version that they know, but maybe not give you the chance to say, okay, like, Austin's grown and he's a different person now than he was when I knew him, when I spent time around him. So I just kind of looked at it that way. And I think it's a lot easier to judge than it is to understand. Like understanding takes effort and asking questions and what does this mean, or why do you do this? Why is it important to you? What's the purpose of it? What's your intention? And I think if someone were to spend the time and ask me that at that time, then they may not have chosen to do that. But things are misinterpreted. And I think I've also learned, like, when you do anything a little bit out there, a little bit different than the norm, you have to be okay with being misunderstood. And like accepting that is hard sometimes because, most people want the approval of many in a lot of ways, and just like that validation of you're doing what you're doing, and, people see it and they validate it, and that makes you feel good and makes you keep going. But you can't please everyone, and you're not going to win everyone over, and not everyone's going to be a fan. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, like there's no point. Focus on the people that do support you and growing that. So that's kind of like my perspective shift that I went through. And over time, those people came back to me and like now support what I do. So it's been interesting, but things come full circle. You just, I don't know. Time can tell stories that a lot of people can't.
I think it's hard too, like, because you were like an athlete, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so, there's like a stigma, I feel like, that comes with being an athlete, and being a creative doesn't go side by side with being an athlete. So it's probably was hard for your friends at the time to understand where you were going with it. Mm. And I totally understand like stopping something that you're working on because of negative feedback that you get from someone. And I feel like that goes towards anything, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're writing, whether you're starting a podcast. It's easy to stop when people are giving you negative feedback. Yeah. So it's pretty cool that you kept writing, even though you were getting like feedback from people like that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I did stop for a while, but then I picked it back up, and I don't know. I wouldn't say I like received negative feedback from anyone. Like no one's that big of an asshole to say something like,
look, this stuff looks too good for you to be negative.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I don't know. I think, you can tell, like, when I could tell when I would post things that were a little bit like out there that I would write about life and just see how many shares it got. And like, I know what that means, like people are sending it to other people talking about it, which it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? Like could be a good thing. I don't know, but I always, from that experience, like I think it's important there's a book that I read, and it's about like how we spontaneously like anticipate the judgment of other people. So that means the vocabulary used in that judgment matters. So for instance, like if I'm going to post something that I know might get judged by some people, right? Like if as a culture, as a society, we can change the vocabulary that is used in that judgment, then that makes me doing that kind of more like approachable, if that makes sense. Like if I know people are going to say, oh, that's interesting, maybe I want to learn more about it or ask more about it, or I don't find that interesting, like I'm going to unfollow, that's fine, right? Like that's much better than why would I listen to him, or like what do I have to learn from that person, or she's crazy, or like that's stupid, things like that hold a lot of people back from sharing things because of the vocabulary that's used in that judgment. So, I think when we're like in our circles of our friends and we hear them like say things a certain way about other people or what other people are doing. I think it's important to like call your friends out on that in terms of, the words they're using to describe things. And I think it's far better to just say that's interesting, than that's weird or, that's crazy. Like you don't have to label things so harshly. Because at the end of the day, like everyone's just doing their best and trying to share like what they feel is important to share. So
I feel like if you don't have the right friend group, you can be like really hard and judgy towards other people, especially like people that you grow up with and, they see you doing better than them. Like, for example, I'm from Lake Travis. I think your business partner, we'll get into that, but I think your business partner went to Lake Travis High School also. So I grew up in a very small community. Okay. So like when people start doing better than others in that community, I feel like there's like this animosity towards each other almost sometimes. Yeah. And that's what's hard no matter where you're from, right? Like if people see you doing better than them and they've known you their whole lives, they're like, why does Austin have that? Why do I not have that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think there's like a saying on that about, I don't know, people coming from the same place and like reaching different heights, and those people that are still in that place kind of tend to judge those people. But I don't know, it's interesting. I have a lot of thoughts on that, like just from where I'm from and friends that I grew up with that are still in that place and haven't left. And, I think it's important to, from my experience, leave your hometown, like experience the world, and gives you a different perspective. It pushes you outside of your comfort zone and your, boundaries a bit. And I think that helps you grow as a young adult and kind of shapes who you become. But I don't know, there's a lot of people that have dreams and ideas that are, great, but most people aren't obsessed with their goals because they don't believe they're worthy of them.
Yeah.
And
wow, that's profound.
Yeah, but I don't know, that's something that, say what you want about me, call me cocky, call me whatever, but like I believe I'm worthy of where I'm going, and like that's something that I always remind myself of, and like I've never doubted that.
Yeah. I mean, you're a busy guy. You're hard to get a hold of. I had to drag you into this podcast studio. I mean, if you're not working on your brands, you're working your corporate job, you're doing shoots, like, I don't know how you're doing it all. The reason you're on this podcast is because we're in Austin. I'm trying to keep it Austin based. Yeah. But I have this feeling that you haven't been here that long. I could be wrong.
I've been here like 4 years now.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like that's like, baby Austinite, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about like where you grew up, because I don't even remember like your hometown.
Yeah. So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Born and raised there. Went to college there at Johns Hopkins, and about a year after graduating, my twin sister, who still lives here, was living here at the time, and visited her and moved here the next weekend. Just like fell in love with it, wanted to be around her, and found a job down here in a week and just like moved down and been here since. And it took me a while to figure out like my lane and people I want to surround myself with. And, everyone goes through that, but I've been very fortunate to meet some great people here and build some great friendships and build a great network that helps me do what I'm doing now. So, Austin's a good spot and probably a forever home for me, but there might be a few pit stops in between. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. No, I love Austin. It's special. Yeah. So, just trying to think about talking about Wavy Dreamer, right? Which is what the alias you were using to write under. Yeah. What type of things were you writing about? Because I know you openly talk about going to therapy and kind of like some of the traumas that you've had, which I think everyone has trauma, right, from their childhood. But you're someone that, I feel like really creatively expressed things that you went through by having this blog where you could open up and share. And I mean, it's like journaling, like a form of self-care, So what did those writings look like? Like, what were you specifically writing about? Was it love? Was it,
Yeah, I mean, really everything. I don't know. I think mainly like self-growth related things, or just a few sentences here or there, like perspective shifts on just, I don't know, different concepts, you know, self-growth, mental health, relationships, friendships, family, things of that nature. So it was a mix, but I mean, if people are listening that followed at the time before that account got hacked, they'll kind of have a sense already. But I'll probably get back to like sharing that a bit more than I do. It's just I don't really have as much time now to like focus on that. And it, you know, I think a lot of what I wrote came from like a place of kind of like brokenness and trying to piece myself back together from it. So that was like heavier thoughts that led to those words that then were shared. And I think that's like why it moved a lot of people and why people would share it and why the account grew as quickly as it did. But I'm not really in that place anymore in my life. Like I'm in a much better headspace and, you know, much healthier. So it's just different to now create from like a different space. But I might get back to sharing like some things that I'd shared previously, which, I think it's important to also make the point that like I've done that and people will reach out and say like, are you okay?
Oh no.
And like, I could share something from the place I'm sitting today that I wrote 3 years ago. And it doesn't mean I'm not okay right now. Like it's important to separate the artist from the art. I think in a lot of senses. And like, yes, I'm fine. I'm sharing this from a different place than I wrote it in. And I think a lot of artists do that, you know, whether that's writers, painters, musicians, you know, things of that nature. But it's important to separate the artist from the art. Like I'm not always saying something because it's my truth. I'm just saying it because I think it is profound and it matters and it should be shared, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And then, because you do talk openly that I feel like you're a more emotionally open man than most people are.
Yeah.
Because I know very few guys that would even talk about going to therapy or mention it. And I will just say I've been going to therapy since I was 16. So to the same therapist. So at this point, my therapist,
that's awesome.
Yeah, she feels like my best friend. And I'll tell anyone that.
Yeah.
But guys don't open up about that kind of stuff. Unless you're guy friends. I mean, I don't have any.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I've had a lot of, not a lot, that sounds bad. You know, girls that I spend time with may say that, like, you're different, or like I'm attracted to you because you have some level of emotional intelligence and you're able to speak about those things and be open about that, and that's attractive. I don't know. I mean, we're just not taught that growing up. Like our fathers weren't taught that, right? Like, you know, I don't know. Trauma today, 200 years ago, was just normal life.
Yeah.
You know, like, or 100 years ago or 50 years ago. Like, a lot of the time things are a cycle. So, you know, our dads would tell us to man up, and now society tells us to kind of like break down those walls, and that's uncomfortable for a lot of people because they weren't taught that and that wasn't conditioned in them from a young age. So it's uncomfortable to do that work. You know, so I think it's like, it's going against the norm. It's going against like societal norms and what our friends would tell us to do, right? Like,
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Do you and your dad like have a good relationship?
Better now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it wasn't always great, but you know, I think it's gotten a lot better recently in the past, like half year, 6 months. But yeah, no, I mean, that was like a large part of my developmental process, is going through some trauma in that sense. And I won't like speak to it too much.
Yeah, you're very hush hush about it, which I'm always like all up in people's business. So I'm like, Cassandra, you need to respect the fact that not everyone wants to blurt out their trauma like you do, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I just think, you know, I have a lot of respect for you that you went to therapy.
appreciate it.
And you openly talk about it. I bet all the women are just swooning at you too. We've talked about that a little bit, and we'll get into that some more. But, because you created this brand for yourself, Wavy, which was your blog, Wavy Dreamer. And now you're kind of going into a different outlet.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your hat and your shirt, which people listening aren't going to see that. But there's some big dreamer text and a longhorn on your shirt.
Yeah.
So how did this fashion line come about from your writings? Like, what was the transition from, like, really being a writer, which is a creative, to now designing your own clothing line?
Like, a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot to that. Might take me a while to explain everything.
That is like a big shift.
Yeah.
But also, like, wow, that you're expressing all this creativity through different outlets and platforms.
Thank you. Yeah, trying to. I started writing, I think, going back to what we were just talking about, as a young man, former athlete in college, like, in the circles that I ran in, like, we're told to man up or not talk about certain things. And, I think acknowledging, like, I don't know, it's important to notice your emotions, like, let them come and go and sit with them. And when you do that, you can learn from them. But, as people in general aren't really taught to do that. I think society sometimes, like, has this rigid view that forces, like, positivity on people and doesn't necessarily teach us how to deal with things as they are. It teaches you how to deal with things as you wish them to be. And it's interesting to, like, learn from every emotion and notice that, like, you're not your emotions. Like, you're just noticing them, right? They come and go like anything else. So for me, like, writing was a lot about that and speaking to my younger self and speaking to other, like, young men out there, because I struggled with mental health for a long time. And I know that I'm not the only person that struggled with it. And there's a lot of people that, like, suffer in silence. That's why men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women at this point, which is a crazy statistic. But I think it's just switching, like, the association between weakness and vulnerability. Like, I think growing up, we're taught that if you show emotion or if you share something that you're struggling with, like, you're weak. But I think, like, showing vulnerability is a form of courage. And you can't convince me that, like, anyone's invulnerable. Everyone is vulnerable.
Right.
Whether you're man, woman, or whatever in between nowadays, right? Like, I
think some people hide it better than others, for sure. And it's, it's easy with, like, social media, like, behind the squares to make it look like your life's perfect. So, like, I've struggled with my own mental health issues, and you sure as hell wouldn't know, if you were following me on social media.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, that was part of why I would share that, started that account too, is just to show, I don't know, social media isn't real, right? Like what you just said, there's a lot more to me and my life and everyone and their life that people can't see. So it's kind of like breaking that stigma a bit when you get a little bit more real and show, like, the more vulnerable parts of yourself and your life in that form. And it's not to, like, gain attention, right? Like, I don't think that's why I did it or do those things. And I don't think that's why most people who do that do it. I think it's just to reach other people and help them feel less alone.
Right.
And that's, like, all I was trying to do, is help other people feel less alone in their thoughts and at least feel like they had someone there with them that experienced the same things. Because I think when you connect with that, obviously you feel less alone and you feel, like you have a chance, right? In some sense. And, I think you can be a source of inspiration for a lot of people if you do that in an authentic way.
Can I ask you, like, when you say that you struggled with mental health, what did that, like, look like for you?
So I was diagnosed with depression, an anxiety disorder, and a dissociative disorder. So
Wow, you just gave me way more than I even thought you were going to give me. You really opened up.
Yeah. So the dissociative disorder was more from, it's like dissociating with reality, which is kind of like a learned behavior from, at least in my experience, from my childhood trauma, and in those moments dissociating from reality and like going to this place in my head where you kind of like convince yourself that you're not experiencing it. So growing up, I was always told, like in school, that I would just space out, and like people would wonder if I was there, if I paid attention, or if I thought I was too cool for school, like things like that. But it's just, you don't realize like what you're going through until you realize it at a certain age, right? Like someone tells you.
I'm surprised they weren't trying to like diagnose you ADD and give you Adderall.
No, yeah. I was never, I don't know. Adderall might help pick my energy up a little bit, but no, no, I struggled with that for a while and was on medication for it. Was in like talk therapy, group therapy, and I started running a lot, which helped quite a bit, just like clear my mind, and writing as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, everyone struggles with something, right? Like I think it's important to find what works for you, and there's no like one size fits all answer. It's, I would encourage people to try different things if they are struggling with something. And if it doesn't work for you, then don't force it. Like find what works for you. Could be a combination of a bunch of different things, or just one thing, right? Like it just is up to that person. But back to your earlier question about transitioning from writing into fashion. I think I just wanted to kind of break that stigma a bit and help people feel less alone. And then once I did that, I started thinking about how I can turn like, I think your passion is for you, your purpose is for other people, or your purpose is when you use your passion to impact other people. And I've always been passionate about creating something. And I think it's just like this shift that occurred where I would like scroll on Instagram when I was in a dark place and just be like, that's inspiring, that's inspiring, that's inspiring, that's inspiring, but never actually do anything about it, right? And then it was just this shift of becoming a producer, not a consumer. And once I did that, it helped me a lot, because you feel like you're contributing something to the world. And I've talked to friends of mine about this who are artists, and they feel a lot more like themselves when they go paint on a canvas, right? And like guys that I'll talk to about this, close friends of mine. And it's interesting that like, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's recognized. It doesn't matter if it sells for a lot of money or it doesn't. Like it matters because it matters to you. And if you're creating it from that like place of authenticity, and you're giving something to the world in that way, it fulfills you at least a little bit. And I think it helps a lot of people continue forward and to keep going, maybe in a way that this does for you. But I think that's important, and I was just always trying to encourage that.
I think that's like a important point that you brought up, because I know for me personally, I got caught up in this scroll of Instagram for a little while. And it was like right after my breakup, because then I just felt like I had all this like time. Yeah. And what am I going to, I just sat there scrolling on Instagram. Yeah. And there's something about that where when you're sitting there and you're watching all these like motivational reels and videos, like I feel like it feels like you're doing something good for yourself, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm just like motivating myself, or, putting that fire. But it's like, if you're just sitting there and not acting on your dreams or putting any purpose behind it, it's like, what's the fucking point, Yeah.
I mean, it takes courage. It takes some push, I think, at times, or some validation. I know I got that like in the beginning of my journey when I started sharing what I would write, and that definitely helps. And I'm sure people say nice things to you about episodes they've listened to, and that helps you keep going. So it's important to get that too, but
no, they talk shit, Austin. I'm just
really?
kidding. No, I don't know. I hope not.
Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's, it takes courage to go like create something and do something different than what your peers are doing and what society would expect you to do, or your parents would expect you to do, and just to be who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most empowering thing you can do, is to trust that and trust your gut, because it's not going to lie to you. Like, if it's pushing you in one direction, there's probably a reason for that.
So now you're like pushing this fashion direction.
Yeah.
I know you're pushing it very much so, because you're always busy with it, which is amazing. And I did like a pre-interview with you a few weeks ago where we like met and just kind of sat and had a drink. And you were telling me, you were like, Cass, I've got some like big things coming up. Then I get on Instagram and I see a fucking Longhorn logo with your shirt. I'm like, how did your brand get this? Like, this is huge.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not even going to mention the Longhorn. I'm going to let you talk about that because I didn't even know that was coming. And that was maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I never actually answered your earlier question, but after the account got hacked that I wrote under, I always like wanted to kind of start, no, I didn't always want to, but like around that time, I sort of wanted to start like thinking about turning it into a brand. So transition to the name House of Dreamer, kind of more like fashion based. Like a lot of fashion houses are House of Gucci, House of Chanel, House of Dreamer, whatever it is, like more all encompassing and welcoming. And Wavy Dreamer was just an alias and not the name of a brand. So started that, sold some trucker hats, and noticed like how people gravitated towards those and sold out of those pretty quickly. And then I saw how often people would wear it or post it, and it was really cool to see. And then from there, I was like, how can I do more with this? And, you know, how can I also include some sort of purpose in this? So the next step in that was creating a foundation, which is our nonprofit, the Dreamer Foundation, and kind of having that as the backbone of the brand and the purpose behind it. And if you look on the Instagram, it says purpose-driven American luxury. I like streetwear. I like, you know, luxury brands, luxury sportswear, whatever you want to call it. That's how I dress. And, you know, I think we have a unique opportunity to create a brand that puts things out in that lane, you know, obviously with Dreamer or House of Dreamer branding on it. But I don't know, I just think it's that next like creative avenue for me to express myself and tell stories. And all I was ever trying to do when I would write is tell a story. And all, I think, you know, to impact people, you have to be able to tell stories and tell them well. And I think you can do that through fashion and through collections. So this UT collection is the first one that we're doing. But the meaning behind it is a few things. We're supporting the Neighborhood Longhorn program. So they help like the underserved youth in and around Austin, give them savings accounts as they grow up and fund those so that they have a chance of affording a college education at some point. They have scholarship programs. So through our foundation, we're going to be sending a kid from their program to the University of Texas for a year, room and board, and then also donating a percentage of profit from this drop to their foundation as well. But that's kind of the intention that will follow on a quarterly basis. So like the middle month of every quarter, we're going to put out signature capsules. We'll call them like Dreamer capsules. And the idea behind that is each one tells a different story. So the one following this is called No More Heartbreaks. And it's like 2 hearts with the word Dreamer in it, kind of connected. But that will support Child Help, which is an organization that helps kids transition from abused and abandoned situations into foster care.
Wow.
And they need backpacks because a lot of those kids carry around their stuff in trash bags. So it's obviously nicer to have a backpack to put your things. We're going to do that for them. And then each time, like I have probably 10, 12 collections lined up for the next few years on a quarterly basis that will roll out, and just find unique ways to tell a story in subtle ways. So like for this one, Texas, which people listening can't see, but in the design, there's 6 stars. So it's like a nod to the state of Texas. Texas at different points was a part of 6 different countries. That's why Six Flags is called Six Flags.
Wow.
Obviously the Longhorn for the University of Texas and Bevo, their mascot. And then it says, "I love this game" right here. And for our shoot and the content that we'll release shortly, we shot a lot of athletes in this. It's kind of like that luxury sportswear, streetwear type vibe, but the meaning behind that is that life is a game of self-awareness. So it's like a double meaning in terms of, obviously they love the sport that they play and they love that game, but I think if we all embrace that like love of this game of self-awareness that we play every day, it makes our lives a lot better. And our lives will get a lot better when we do that, at least in my experience, mine has. And it's kind of like the subtle meaning behind that. And then there's a different design on the back, but yeah, in the tag it says something I wrote, which is, "And despite it all, I move with love in the direction of my dreams." So
Wow.
That's kind of like the meaning behind the brand. So that'll probably be on every tag moving forward. But yeah, that's really it. So
when was House of Dreamer established?
Just like a few months ago.
A few months ago?
Yeah.
And then you're talking about all these drops that you guys are going to have. How many drops have you had so far? Or has it just been the hats that you've
Just
dropped?
one. Yeah,
Okay.
we did another collaboration, but we didn't actually drop those. They just sold out
Damn.
without ever selling.
You're like, we didn't even have to drop. People just bought it all.
Yeah, that was just a smaller collaboration with an esports company here in Austin. But yeah, I mean, I think we have a good, we've been very intentional about like the foundation that we're setting and the purpose that we're trying to create from. So I think with that and with the creativity that I have and the ideas and the ways to tell those stories, I think we have a very unique opportunity to do something different. Like, I don't want to do something that's already been done. And there's a lot of brands that'll donate 10% of profit from a collection to an organization, but that's more of a tax write-off than a purpose behind the creation of something. So for us, it starts with that. And, I think I'll do it in subtle ways. And, I don't want to position ourselves as like this brand that just throws on these like loud statements that are tied to certain causes. So, for me, it's more like subtle, incorporating that into our designs and then just telling the story in a unique way and just seeing how it goes.
How can people like get your stuff when it drops? Because it sounds like it's selling out so fast. And then I know that you guys at one point had hats at the Collective, a gym here in town. I don't know if you still have merch there.
Yeah.
So like, where can people, because they're going to want to get the merch.
Yeah, no.
But it sounds like it's going so fast. So
yeah, everything at first is more limited quantities, more exclusive. But yeah, we're selling hats in Connect, which is a store in the front of Collective that's now moving to South Congress right by Perla's. So they're going to have like luxury designer brands and then resell sneakers and streetwear in there. So all our stuff will be there. I'm actually helping them like pick out their designer pieces for that store, but the hats in there are sold out. Hats online sold out. So we have really nothing in inventory right now until we drop this collection, which will be soon.
yeah, do we have the drop date, or is that still like a
no,
secret?
I'm not. Yeah, that's still
like, no.
That's still a secret. It'll be this month, but it's still a secret. You'll know soon. But no, we'll probably almost sell out before we even drop this, just from our early access that we'll send. So
are people like shopping off like your Instagram, or do you guys have like an e-commerce website people can buy stuff?
Yeah, no, we're our website's being recreated right now. It'll be ready probably end of this week, early next week, but it's built on Shopify. Okay. So yeah, people check out through Shopify, but
I guess your Instagram is where they got to stay keeping up with everything so they know when the drops are happening.
Yeah, we have some announcements coming soon around that. Dreamers Club, which is going to be that more like exclusive access, early access, discounts, some other cool things that we're including in that, like mystery boxes and Hat of the Month Club type stuff. So there's a lot to come and a lot that'll be announced on socials soon. But yeah, I mean, we're very like strategic about it. So, we'll gift certain people different pieces and, through our network, get it on pro athletes, influencers, things of that nature. So it's important when you're
Yeah.
building a brand to do that
Because
also.
I feel like the collective here in Austin reminds me of like the new age On It, which I don't know if you're familiar with On It.
No,
like, I don't know. Does the collective have like some cult like following going on
No,
too? Because
people think that.
I know,
No.
but I feel like it's just like all these like entrepreneurs and athletes, and I mean, you're there a lot, like almost every day working out, right?
Yeah. Not working out as much as I should, but working from there because there's a co-working space. So I work from there a lot. But no, it's not a cult. I mean, it's a really like unique community of talented individuals that a lot of people are doing different things, but very cool things in their space, in their lane. And it's just cool to be around. Like there's this perception of like exclusivity to it, but anyone can go sign up, right? Like
How much is a membership?
I think it's $400 a month now. Yeah. But
that's a lot.
I joined as a founding member and I able to expense it as well through work. But yeah, find a way to expense it through work. I think it's changed my life just from being there, the connections I've made, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now at the level I'm doing it without that. So I would encourage anyone, wherever you are, if you want to elevate your life, then elevate the people you surround yourself with and that you learn from every day and that you're around. One of the best places to do that is like a higher end gym, because a lot of people that value that like lifestyle and consistency and a routine and health and fitness probably translates to other parts of their life too and what they're doing. But collective is a very unique space for that, and I'm grateful that I joined when I did as a founding member like over a year ago.
Okay, Austin.
Yeah, it's been good, but no, it's a very cool spot. Like a lot of dope people just doing dope shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's interesting too is Austin has such an incredible network of people. But you're not going to meet people that you want to collaborate with so much at like Buford's on West 6.
Yeah.
Like you might, but there's certain rooms that if you put yourself in them, like Soho House, the collective, you're going to meet more like-minded people.
Yeah.
Even like Khalil, I think that's how you say his name, Sun Life Organics. I'm a huge fan of his. Listen to like a ton of podcasts he's done. He works out at the collective.
Yeah. I see him all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
See? I would just go in there and fangirl.
Really?
I think, you know, some people as entrepreneurs just have really inspiring stories, you know, and the fact that you have your merch being sold at this gym where there's high value people, that's fucking badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I've been very fortunate to just have the opportunity to walk through those walls and meet the people I've met. And, you know, they're just very generous too with, you know, the access that they can provide to their networks. And, you know, I think when you're around people like that, there were people that helped them get to where they are. So they want to be that for like me or the next kid or whoever it is. Right. So, you know, there's something to be said about that. And hopefully at some point I can be that for someone else. But yeah.
Yeah. Like what type of athletes are wearing your merch right now too? Because I feel like, I mean, the athletes, especially when they're going to games, like their style is like on fucking par, you know? So those are the people you want your stuff to be on.
I mean, from the NFL Elite Week they had at Collective a few months ago, a lot of those NFL guys that were in there bought hats in the store. A couple NBA guys. One was really cool when like John Morant was working out there and he bought a hat. He went in the store and spent $15,000 on his friends and his family that were with him. And he bought two things. One was a hat of ours and a pair of Amiri jeans. But just like, he was someone that I look up to. It's weird because he's younger than me, but look up to in the sense of like a few years ago when they played in the bubble, he like openly talked about his mental health and his struggle with it. And that was like during a time where I was struggling with it too, significantly. So I always like since had looked to him as like one of my favorite players in the NBA. So for him to like walk in there and buy something that I created was a dope moment for me. And very, I don't know, I still haven't seen a photograph of him wearing it. So hopefully he rocks it to a game, but he's got he never wears hats because he just has like crazy dreads. So I don't know. We'll see. But
that's awesome.
It's dope. Yeah.
Because you're trying to take Dreamer to like very high end fashion from.
Yeah. I mean, still like affordable luxury, not like too high end where people can't afford it. But each collection will have something that someone can afford. And then we're going to do, probably announce it next year, beginning of the year, but Dreamer vintage also.
Oh, cool.
So like thrifted and vintage items. And that'll be dope because that'll be very unique and like curated collections that everyone can afford. And then in each like signature collection, we'll still have pieces that like everyone in theory should be able to afford. But yeah, we'll have some expensive items too. Like,
what's like your price range right now? And you're talking to like a forever 21 girl going on 27. You know, like what's the like? Can people like walk in and buy something from the Dreamer collection for like under $150?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, the original like trucker hats that we made, we sold them online for less, but in the store here in Austin, they sold them for $85. But this hat will be $65 and this shirt will be $83. Reason behind that is that UT was founded in 1883. So
that is so fucking
shirt's
cool.
83 and then 83 minus 18 is 65.
Yeah. The way you tie everything in together is so cool. Even like the Six Flags with Texas.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have put two and two together, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say this and I think sometimes it sounds like a cool thing to say, but it's like everything I do has a purpose.
Yeah.
And like I live that and try to in everything that I would create. So very detail oriented and specific about everything, which might drive some people crazy that I work with. But
that's funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you have to be like, it's important because the details ultimately are what separates you from competition and others in the space that are trying to do something similar. So it's a lot of attention to detail in every aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does your dating life look like right now? I have to ask because you're building really like your own fashion house, right? Your own fashion empire. And I know how much time and dedication you're putting into it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know what type of person you are. And I'm kind of thinking that you'd be, you know, you're someone that's building an empire and would have someone by their side, right? With the same kind of mindset of going after their goals and building something together. So is that tough? Because, you know, you're on your own journey right now. So are you still open to dating? Or are you just so focused on Dreamer? Because I have girls in my DMs too. Just so you know, when they found out you were coming on the podcast, they were like, how do you get all these hot guys on there? And I was like, I don't know.
Nah, I appreciate that compliment from them. But I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. Like I've been single for a little while now after a long-term relationship, and it's interesting to like get back into dating and kind of come from that place that I was in and now reassess and like determine what I want, just from my experience prior, which we can touch on. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I said this to someone the other day about, I'm in a place where I value my routine. I value my friendships and spending time with my friends, and you know, the time that I do have outside of how much time I spend on my 9-to-5 job and then on this, which is pretty much 24/7. I want to spend it with friends and like people that I want to, you know, have in my corner, and I want to be in their corner too. So I try to make that the focus when I do have free time. But yeah, I mean, dating's interesting. I do,
I'm laughing
in a humble way.
I've heard this before, so I'm continue.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly interest, but I don't know. It would take someone very special to make me change my routine. And, you know, I would want that person to be as independent and as committed to whatever it is they're doing. It doesn't matter what scale it's on, but have passion for it and have a purpose. And, you know, I think that's important for me and someone that I would be with. So I don't know, trying to figure out what I'm looking for. But yeah, I would just take someone super special to make me change my mind on that. I think I blew off a date tonight to come here. So yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting.
When I've talked to you, it sounds like you almost have like too many women coming at you. Like, I don't even know if you need to use dating apps. I don't know if you're on them.
Yeah, I deleted dating apps. Yeah, not anymore. I mean, I think, I don't know, dating apps aren't a bad place to meet people. I think also it's important to voice like your intention if you are on a dating app. You know, like if you're intentional about dating, make that clear. If you're not intentional about dating and you want other things, then make that clear. And there's nothing wrong with that. People are at different points in their life and they can want different things. And that doesn't mean they're a fuck boy or a fuck girl or whatever. It just means they're figuring it out. And I think where people get confused is like if that's not communicated. So I don't know. I try to do that, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm very picky. I don't really like it.
What's your type?
My type?
Do you have a type?
Not physically, no. I mean, I think being attracted to someone is important, but that's not what a relationship is going to last on. You know, I think for me, emotional intelligence and connection is important, and intellectual stimulation. And, you know, I just want a best friend. Like, I value companionship. I know I want a family. I know I want to build that and build it, you know, whenever that happens. I'm not in a rush, but just want a best friend to kick it with and like have a good time. Someone who's cool and, you know, creative and can, you know, bump the new Drake album in the car with me and like whatever it is, like someone who's probably fashionable, you know, but again, has that like sense of independence and is okay with giving me that too and trusting me in that. And I think that's hard to do nowadays, especially when everything is accessible to everyone. So, you know, I think wherever this takes me and this brand takes me, it might take me on the road and on planes across oceans at times in the future. And like, there's not a lot of people that may be okay with that or, you know, things like that. So it's hard to find people with enough confidence to trust in that nowadays. But yeah, it's interesting trying to figure it out. If that makes sense.
It's hard dating in 2022. I'm not even gonna lie. And I know at one point you were engaged, so you've gotten further than I have at dating, you know?
Yeah.
And actually, this is really funny because I accidentally followed her on Instagram and I had no idea it was like your ex-fiance. Yeah. And I was like, wow, what a small world, A. And B, I hope he doesn't think I like am stalking his entire life.
No, that's fine. Yeah, funny.
That was funny.
Yeah.
It's all coincidence, but you know, being engaged, I've never been engaged.
Yeah. It's not that much different than dating, just with the expectation of a commitment for life, which you know, makes you think a little differently once you're in that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I learned a lot from it. I think maybe it was a bit rushed, and I don't regret that. I don't think anyone should regret something they once wanted. So I don't look back at it with regret. I look back at it valuing the experiences that I shared with her, and I'll always value that and hold that like in a special place in my heart because it did mean a lot to me, and she meant a lot to me, and like I did to her. So there's like a, you know, a level of respect as you move on from something, of course, but it still means something. It always will. But it just wasn't my person. And, you know, I kind of realized that, and it was a hard decision, but better to make it prior than after.
Yeah.
And, you know, it hurts to hurt someone, but I'm in a place now where I'm much happier, and she's in a place where she's much happier. And, you know, I'm really happy for her and where she's at in her life. So we don't really communicate, but from afar, like I know she's doing well, and support from a distance. But life is interesting. Things happen, and you never think that it would happen to you until it does. And then like you realize some of the things your parents told you when you were younger, like they were right. Like there's a lot of levels to life, and like as you experience different things, it brings new perspectives and can shift your mindset on a lot of things and the way you look at life. And it's cool to experience that. Like it's weird saying that, like I went through an engagement and broke it off, and now I look at it with the perspective of like what I learned from that is cool, and it's gonna help me like moving forward in my life. But I think it's just all about how you label things and look at things. Like all our brains do every day is just create and destroy meaning for the things that we label. And if I looked at that and was like, I look at that with regret or as trauma or whatever, then it's going to carry a certain weight, and that's going to be difficult to let go of. But if I look at it with like respect and, some sense of gratitude for the experience that I had and what it taught me, then that makes my life moving forward a lot, I think, easier in some sense, because I'm not holding on to that.
It sounds like you really live in the present.
Try to.
But what I will say, what is really refreshing listening to you talk about your past is how amicable you are talking about your ex, and how you never say anything rude or mean about her. I just hear nothing but kind thoughts from you, and like wishing her the best. And I just think that's like profound going into your next relationship,
Yeah.
because it says a lot about what you're saying about your ex going into, any potential new relationship, I think. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that came with experiences and maturity. I don't think I would always say things in this way about maybe past relationships when I was younger, but all we can do is improve and just try to get better with, different parts of our life. But yeah, I don't know. I think notice what people say. You're right. Like notice what people say when you're dating about their exes. And
yeah,
because that could be you someday, and I think it's important to pay attention to how people speak about other people and what they choose to share and what they choose to keep private. And it also shows a level of respect for like the intimacy that you shared with someone and their life. And that's your story with them. That's not your story necessarily to share with everyone. So
that's so true. And I mean, no one's ever going to understand what you've gone through with that person besides the two of you.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I kind of wonder is, what kind of led y'all to fall apart, if you don't mind me asking, because I know that you're busy building a brand too at the same time. So I didn't know if, that got in the way of your relationship, or if you'd already started the brand, or what that looked like for you.
Yeah, no, I hadn't really started it prior to us splitting. Started it like shortly after. I started like conceptualizing it and bringing it to life shortly after that. But I mean, I think it was just, I don't know. I'll quote her. It was just two kids who so badly wanted to feel something. And, I think we checked a lot of boxes for each other and rode that high for a bit. But then when it came down to it, like we realized our differences, and relationships are hard. They take a lot of work. And, I think timing is important and when you meet people. And, maybe she was my person for a period of time, but the timing wasn't right. I think you meet people and you might meet them at the wrong time, and they might be the perfect person for you, and they might be the person that you can build something with, but for whatever reason, the timing is off. And I think that was part of it with us, and what she wanted to focus on and in her career, and kind of what I wanted to focus on and the way I viewed life. And there were just some differences in that aspect, but nothing like crazy. And, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything negative or bad about her, but, we all grow at different times. And I know I had things that I didn't do very well in that relationship that I could do better in my next one. And all I can do is take that and learn from it. And then for her, it's the same thing. And, you know, put the work in and try to become a better version of yourself for that next person, so you can give that to them and just learn from everything that you can, you know, from that past experience. But yeah, I don't know. We were at different places in our life in terms of emotional maturity and, you know, kind of what we were looking for in a partner and in life in that sense. So as we started to realize those differences, I think we just grew apart, and it's tough. And then it was hard to grow back together. And, you know, as much as you can try and, you know, want to maybe force something at times, you also just have to be real and realize when it's not working or it's not meant for you. And I always say, trust your gut, or trust your intuition. And that's why I would sign things off that I used to write as XO wavy. And I think like we live and think in waves of consciousness. And that was kind of the meaning behind that. But like, that is your intuition, and it's going to guide you in your truest direction. So trust it and follow it. And I could just feel that like something was off inside me. And it was like I was trying to force something that wasn't meant for me. And as soon as I ended it, I felt like such a relief and like a weight off my shoulders. Like I could be who I wanted to be and, you know, be free to create that and create the life that I wanted. And not that like she was not saying she was controlling or anything like that, but it's just a difference of opinion in the way that life should look and all of that. So that was really it, but I won't get into too much more detail.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just a very young relationship too, you know, which sometimes I think those are so beautiful because it's like that young love.
Yeah.
And sometimes it kind of goes to shit because you're just young. Like there's still things you need to work on yourself. The other person needs to work on. Like you're still figuring yourself out.
Yeah.
And I think MGK said the other day that he felt like he was Peter Pan just stringing along Wendy. And I don't know why, but I love that he said that. That's you know, because it's kind of what I think those young relationships look like. It's like never want to grow up kind of thing. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to find good people that you can actually have that with. So I think there's some aspect of like when you find that, you feel like almost forced to rush it so you can like lock it down. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, it is hard to find people that are loyal and committed and, you know, have a good foundation when it comes to their career, their finances, things of that nature. So when you find it, maybe you feel a little rushed. And I know I felt that, but I don't know, just something to learn from and grow from. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, you put a ring on it. That's more than a lot of men in Austin would do.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're like open to commitment and like finding that person and your partner is awesome, you know? And I think you'll have that. Like I can only see you just like building this empire and having someone like right by your side, you know?
Hopefully. Yeah. I want that.
Yeah. It's like a power couple, you know?
That'd be nice. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter this, like I said, the scale of what someone does something at, like as long as they have a passion for it, I think that is attractive. And it doesn't matter if you're making bracelets that you go sell on the street for $2 and you sell 10 of them in a year. Like if you love it and it brings you joy and fulfillment, then it's ultimately going to bring more fulfillment and joy to your relationship. So just try to look for that in people and, you know, hopefully find it.
Yeah. It's like that self-love, right? Because if you're watering your own self, you know, with whether that's Dreamer or a podcast, then that's like when I feel like you get in those relationships that really work. You know, you're putting the two parts together. And I feel like we find people when we least expect it. Yeah. You know, like when you're planning to not get in a relationship is when it happens, you know? Yeah. So you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. I think my only other question for you is what you do for fun in Austin. I'm like, does Austin have any fun in Austin? Is the question.
Yeah, no, I do for sure. What do I do? I mean, I go out sometimes. I definitely probably have spent a little too much time at Soho House in the past few months with my guy Ethan and some other friends. But I don't know, just something more chill, a good time. I'll go out to West Six sometimes with friends, but I don't know, the clubs and bars get a little overwhelming and aggressive for me. I'd rather just like get a nice dinner with friends and have a good time in a more chill spot. But yeah, I mean, I still find time to have fun and have a social life for sure. Probably like sacrifice sleep for that, but it's all good. I mean, I can only balance it to the extent that works for me. And I think I'd do that. And I don't know, I think in your 20s, you should push yourself and find your limits and find what you're capable of and then scale back from there, as other responsibilities come up. But that's all I'm really trying to do. So I think I just focus on seeing where my limits are and how much I can give to different things. And, if I'm not really in it, then I'm probably not going to do that. So, I don't know, just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a huge part of success is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you're very consistent with your brand. Like you're always posting, you're creating. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, I was like, I'm putting out like one podcast a month right now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because sometimes slow and steady wins the race. So even if you're 20s, if you're going a little slower or you're not getting where you want to be as fast, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like I said, slow and steady wins the race.
I agree.
Yeah.
We're each on our own timelines. You can't let other people rush you with theirs or even rush yourself with your own expectations of what you think you're capable of, Yeah. I don't know. I struggle with that sometimes, so I get that. I hear you.
Well, I think House of Dreamer is only just going to continue to grow. Like literally from when I met you 3 weeks ago, it's been insane the things that are happening. So you have to give us your socials.
Okay.
So people know where to find you, where to find House of Dreamer.
Yeah. Just at House of Dreamer without the last E in Dreamer. And I think soon it probably is just going to be at Dreamer, spelled DREAMR, but we're working on getting that handle. So should have that soon and it'll be easy to find us from there.
Yeah. What about your personal one?
Just
Are you going to give it out? You're like, you don't have to. I was just thinking if you give it out, there might be some ladies sliding in your DMs. So I don't know if you want to go there.
No.
No? Okay.
I probably won't. I probably won't see the DM if they slide.
We're going to keep it private. Just go buy merch and maybe you can go on a date.
I'm tagged and stuff on the brand page, so you'll find me. But I don't know. I don't check my DMs that much, honestly. So there's probably a lot of people.
Oh my God, I'm glad I got you on this podcast.
But
that is so funny.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Austin.
Of course, thank you.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, it was dope.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Bye.
Appreciate it. Good job.
That was fun.